Hello everyone, welcome. We are all excited to learn about gaming. I personally never gamed in my life, so I'm probably not the most popular person here. But I have with me my esteemed panelists, and we're very keen to talk about the gaming, the future of Web3 in gaming, but also cover not just the broader world, but also what's happening in Middle East. And I think what we're going to talk is about the current trends, how we see this happening, how do we see the future in the next 3 to 5 years. And we have quite a lot of different perspectives, both from the more gaming world, more from investment side, and also from somebody who's based in the region and has been here for the last 30 years. So, welcome to my panelists. Thank you so much for being with me today and for coming so far, some of us, to hear. I'll start with my questions. So, Han, you have a very popular game, and it's really popular outside of Middle East across many, many, many countries, right? And I hear that you're expanding, you want to expand in the region. So what attracts you to the region, and what do you think is going to be kind of the next big step here?
Yeah, so just kind of set the stage. So I'm from a game company that's building a game called League of Kingdoms, which is the world's first blockchain-based MMO game. And we're, of late, we're expanding to a game publishing platform. And our single vision is to bring Web3 to the mass, to make building and launching and playing Web3 game as effortless as possible. And as part of that journey, MENA, the Middle Eastern region, holds a very special place. So we have been active, have been very present in the region. We have a publisher on the ground and for more than 4 years. And the market has grown to be one of the top 5 geos playing our games today. And I think this is just the beginning. I think there's a huge potential for the MENA market, and we'll continue to cultivate that.
And it's one of your top 5 regions, right, for
that
expansion?
Is correct.
All right. And Bilal, coming to you, you've been in the region for a very long period of time, and your company has been very successful with the token in particular. Just recently, it's been growing. And you've been working with the government in terms of, the metaverse and how to use it for the gaming. Can you tell us a bit more what you see as the key potential and key risks as well?
Yeah, sure. Hi. So I'm Bilal from the Sandbox. I guess a little bit more context. So I'm based in Saudi Arabia, and the Sandbox really started around 6-7 months ago. We're kind of establishing our presence here in the region. And maybe to answer your question, and I know you mentioned government, so I speak about, those of you who's heard me speak before, I speak about this a lot, and what I find is really different when it comes to our region here, whether it's in the UAE or whether it's in Saudi Arabia, is, as you can see, we're all here gathered under one roof, and this is all, supplied by the government. So this is what I personally love about the region, and what I've seen, like, in the past, let's say, 5-6 years in the development that's been happening, is that we really work with regulators, we work with, government entities to not necessarily establish regulation, but this is why the future, or in this region, it's extremely bright. And on a more of a sandbox note, we're really partnering with regional, entities, whether it's in the UAE or in Saudi. I mentioned those 2 countries because that's kind of where we're focused on right now. And we're allocating land to them on the metaverse and, building huge experiences. So I think if you're not in this region yet, you have to be here. I know, thanks to Hast and Hub 71, we have so many, such a diverse amount of people here, from all around the world. And a lot, I personally know so much more about the Korean culture now because of Hash, and I find that amazing. So, thank you for setting all this up.
Thank you so much. And Casper, we want to talk about the tokenomics, which is really the core of the session. What is the long-term game of tokenomics? How do you see it?
Okay, that could take up the rest of the afternoon. So let me just, first let me introduce Spartan. So we are a venture capitalist and investment group. So we have 2 venture funds and a hedge fund for liquid tokens. One of our venture funds is focused solely on gaming and metaverse. We have about 100 portfolio companies in the Web3 space there. Then we also have an investment banking business where we do M&A and capital markets work, all for Web3. So we also work with gaming companies on launching their tokens. So kind of figuring out the tokenomics, figuring out where to list their market makers, what investors to get, go to market, all these things. So on tokenomics, gaming tokens so far have had kind of a mixed response in the market. Generally not done as well as other tokens. A large part of that is probably not necessarily down to the tokenomics themselves, but just the fact that compared to many other apps, like a DeFi app, it takes much longer to build a game, especially like a strong, engaging game, be it a mobile game or whatever type of game it is. It's just a huge investment of time and capital. And then, so that's point one. So it takes a while for the game just to gain traction and even get built. And if you have a token floating out there before that happens, of course, it's not tied to anything, so people might lose interest. Second, then in terms of in the game, the key thing is really what we call token sinks, which, you know, another way of saying places where you use and spend the token. Like you need, if you think about an economy of fiat currency or tokens, like there needs to be an economy where people spend the currency and then also where you can earn the currency. And there needs to be like a natural cycle there, right? And you want to keep it in the ecosystem. And that is still, I would say, evolving. There's a lot of different, some tokens are for a single game, but the ones that we think will probably be more successful are the ones for more like gaming platforms, where they kind of provide a platform for others to, like my co-panelists, where you provide a platform for someone to build on it, and then it kind of comes with a token currency out of the box, and you can tap into that ecosystem, and then the users can use the token across the whole ecosystem. But there has to be this kind of flywheel of supply and demand of the token. And that is, I mean, you're getting into kind of like economics and, you know, finance, and like it's not just like tech and Web3 and all fun and games, so to speak. It's really, really difficult to design. But the token sinks is the main thing, where there's got to be like a really clear use case for the tokens, and you got to put yourself in the place of the holders of the tokens and the players to think about, like, if I was here, would I be using this token in this case, and would I also be willing to put in the work to earn the token on the other side?
I was just wondering, do we have any questions from the audience? Because I want to make it a little bit interactive. Yes. I don't know if we're going to hear you, but if not, I'm going to come.
My name is Evgeny Zotov. I'm also from the venture capital sphere, more than 6 years, and 3 months I'm a founder, first time in my life. This is a SaaS platform for Telegram mini apps, and the majority of them are now games. So we create them. You can create an app in 1 hour and monetize them. It's somehow like a sandbox, but we have a vendor as a Telegram. This is about the implementation, because when you have just one token in the ecosystem, it was somehow connected with the previous panel, yes? So you have different ecosystems like Roblox. They have this Robux or whatever, like Sandbox token, like the merge token, and so on. So far, you should have some kind of exchange, some kind of cross tokenomics, deflation and inflation. So what do you think about this next step when the different ecosystems, because like Sandbox will never allow his customers go to Telegram, but he's very welcome if it will be backward. So what do you think about the next step, not about the current tokenomics of a particular project, but the next step of how these big names, big like whales, ecosystems will communicate with each other in terms of like gaming? Yeah, thank you.
Well, I would say that's an interesting question. I'd say we still haven't even nailed having tokens work in one ecosystem, let alone across ecosystems. So it's something that will come over time, but and kind of the whole point of tokens or in-game assets that are effectively NFTs, although NFT is kind of like a 3-letter word right now, or 4-letter word, whatever you want to say, right? But the reality is it's an on-chain asset, and you want to be able to port it across games, and you want to use it in Sandbox and in other metaverses and in different games, right? So there needs to be that. Part of that is technical in terms of where the asset lives, like what chain is it, like technically can you even move it across? And then there's also the question of, well, can you just natively do that, and then you move an asset into Sandbox, and if Sandbox decides to give the asset some qualities, it has whatever qualities it gives them, and if they don't, then it's just kind of sitting there but doesn't have any use. That's kind of native. That could happen natively if the assets technically can move. And then the other question is then, okay, the token, if you want these economies to interact, that becomes difficult. That becomes more like a macro question of like fiat currencies interacting and what's the exchange rate and so forth. Now,
yeah, but that will bring the big capital, because while it's the token inside one ecosystem, like maybe a few funds are interested, but when it becomes like Sandbox, World of Tanks, I don't know, Blizzard, Valve, Merge, when they are becoming no, it's like how it's called the intercontinental economy. Yes, this big capital will be interested, and big capital can be acquired as collateral for all these exchange systems. This is what I feel will be the next step, because for example, the Telegram, it's 1 billion users, but it's the problem we solve. It's a gray zone for the advertisers. It means that Ton is like not so very known token, but as soon as this problem will be solved, it's 1 billion users. Roblox, 4.3 billion. Like Tencent, 1.7 billion. So it's huge. And I think that if big brands now starting to collaborate on these terms, what will be the exchange rate you mentioned and all these things, it can be, they can boost this new era much more faster. And then the big capital will come not only for the BDCs and so on and so forth. This is my thoughts. So what do you think about that, like time frames, when you three can shake hands and make a new token? Yeah.
Look, to be honest, I'm just kind of going to echo what you were saying. I think we're still like establishing what we're in right now before we get there. Like I still think really far away. What you're talking about is still like really, really far away. And I think what I noticed, at least, and I was having this discussion with someone earlier today, is at least from the Sandbox shoes, we don't really like track our token. We don't really look like every day checking our token. We don't really do that. I think at the end of the day, it's the product that you build. At least from our point of view, this will reflect on your token eventually. So that's what I think about that.
Yeah, I think to kind of to add wrinkles to what Biller said, I think that has always been like the North Star. We want interoperable, interconnected. We have the infra to power that. Just there is less incentive for these different ecosystems to work together. It could be like when the tokens are like much widely distributed, and that can the token holdership, the ownership of token can even in itself become a platform. And it's not a network effect, it's not closed loop, but it can play a role over the sort of a network effect type of power that can give incentives for other ecosystems to adopt it. But in that case, the ecosystem can expand much faster. Yeah, so yeah, that's what I think.
So I just wanted to slightly interrupt because I was told off slightly to stick to the planned schedule. But we had another question from Dr. Ming, and if you don't mind, maybe we can ask it after.
Well, that's definitely a four-letter word in crypto, central banking. Yeah, I mean, me and my co-founders all are from Goldman Sachs originally and spent between 10 and 20 years there. So we do have a TradFi background before we started Spartan 7, 8 years ago. You know, yeah, I think central banking is economics, and there are a lot of economics behind this, and actually a lot of people, a lot of projects have economists either on staff or as consultants to help develop the token model. And it can get pretty complex, just like, you know, economic systems. I'd say the foundations right now that typically with a token, you'll have a foundation that holds most of the token, and they'll have like certain allocations, like this is for business development, this is for ecosystem, this is for rewards, depending on how the blockchain, you know, or the app works. And for at least the initial period of time, it is fairly centralized to that foundation. But there are examples of, you know, foundations that have reached a level of maturity where they're more decentralized, and they become more and more decentralized. That's the thinking behind the DAO system too. And then it does maybe perform the central bank function, but it's no longer political. It's more like if you imagine a central bank, but it's through, like every decision is through a vote, you know, like a, yeah, basically a public vote, right?
Like the Sandbox DAO is a good example of that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your question, Dr. Ming. I think the next step is the panelists will stay here a little bit so that you can have a proper Q&A with them in private, because I'm being told off. So if we just go to maybe one key takeaway from each one of you on the topic, what do you see, you know, as the future, either the opportunity or the risk, but just in a very summarized version?
So I think so we're in gaming industry, so I think the games for when we were building Web3 games, we had to put games as entertainment first, and that's tokens next. So that's what. So basically, we need to use Web3 to solve the problem that Web2 traditional tech in gaming cannot solve. So I think that's the approach that we're really focused on.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I don't think in Web3 gaming we're not trying to convert Web2 gamers. That's what I would like to add. It's kind of solving solutions that were not available in Web2, but also I think creating a totally new ecosystem. And to answer your question, Alina, I think just what I said at the beginning. If you're thinking about coming to our region and you're not here yet, then you should be here. That's my key takeaway.
What do you think?
Well, on the topic of Web3 gaming, I do think that if you think about usage of Web3 in general, I mean, obviously a lot of people are now invested in Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, or different forms of altcoins in their wallet to different extents. So there is adoption of Web3 as a financial asset, but in terms of number of those people that actually use the tokens, or other than paying gas on a blockchain to actually get the token, or use it for payments, like the use cases are still emerging, and the usage of the token as intended is still not huge. I do think that, and one of the reasons why we're bullish on Web3 gaming in general is it is a very, very clear use case and a very obvious way to get a lot of people into Web3, whether they're Web2 gamers or not. And games are getting better and better at kind of putting it a little bit behind the fold, so to speak, so that you just, the key is that the game is fun to play, people want to interact with it, play with it. And then over time, they can gradually realize that this in-game currency actually is on the blockchain, and you can move it across to other chains, or you can take it, or other games, or you can take it like out of the system and actually sell it. And same with, you know, the sword that they won in the battle, they realize that, oh wow, I can port this to another game, completely different game, and it has this function, this power there. So I do think over time, it'll be a huge funnel for people into Web3, and then from there, they can move to other parts of Web3. So that's why we're very bullish on Web3 gaming. That's why we have a gaming fund, and you know, I think it's a very important sector for Web3.
Thank you so much to my esteemed panelists. Thank you so much to the audience. We'll be here for some time if you want to ask the questions to the panelists. Thank you.